Welcome back to the deep dive. You gave us a really fascinating piece of source material for today.
Well, this one is something else.
It's this highly specialized, sensory-driven narrative, and it's designed for, well, just one purpose: to guide the mind into deep rest. This feels less like a bedtime story and more like engineering.
That's exactly the right term. We are absolutely looking at cognitive architecture here.
Cognitive architecture.
Our mission for this deep dive is to analyze this whole fantastical realm, but not for its story. We're here to dissect the precise sequence of things.
Okay.
The sensory triggers, the lighting design, the sound shifts, all the little things that are designed to move a human brain from a state of, active vigilance to just effortless sleep.
It's a structured journey.
A structured journey toward unconsciousness, exactly.
What I found so interesting is that before we even get to the first glowing arch or the silver dog, the narrative grounds you entirely in the physical world. There's this mandated physical pre-dive checklist. You're told to notice the support of your mattress, the weight of the blankets, the actual feel of the air on your skin.
It's the essential first step. You have to do it. It's all about intentional cognitive control. Before your mind can really let go and engage with a fantasy, it first has to acknowledge and, well, safely settle the body.
Okay, that makes sense.
And right after that grounding, the narrative immediately focuses on systematically releasing tension. Forehead, jaw, shoulders, all the way down to your toes. And it pairs it with focused breathing.
But here's my question. Why spend so much time focusing on the physical body if the ultimate goal is to disengage from it? Doesn't that risk kind of activating the body?
That's a great question, but not if it's framed correctly. This is all about systematic closure, not arousal.
Closure.
Right. The instruction to breathe in a cool sense of calm and then exhale the dust of the day. That uses metaphor to attach a positive meaning to physical relaxation.
So you're choosing to let go.
You are actively choosing to shed the day's residual stress. Without that critical first step of acknowledging and releasing that somatic tension, the imaginative journey just gets layered on top of a physically stressed state. You'd never get to true rest.
That makes perfect sense.
That's it.
It's practical prep before the imagination gets to take over. And once that anchor is set, we hit the threshold.
The doorway.
A doorway woven from moonbeams and actual fireflies.
The imagery there is so specific. It immediately resolves a fundamental tension, right?
Oh.
The reality of night, which is the moonlight, and the potential of fantasy, the firefly weaving.
I see.
It signals to you, the listener, that you're crossing a liminal space where imagination holds the same weight as physical reality. The story literally gives you permission to suspend disbelief. It says this world exists just beyond waking life.
And the path itself continues that light-based theme. We're walking on these smooth, pale blue stones that glow.
But not just because they're glow in the dark.
No, it says it's because starlight has seeped into them over countless nights. You're walking on cosmic remnants.
And notice the sound that gets introduced early on. It's designed to be ambient and structural. You encounter these shimmering arches of translucent glass that hum quietly with a soft musical tone when the breeze passes through.
So it's like the world itself is making a kind of white noise.
It's an auditory confirmation. It tells you the environment is welcoming, it's responsive, it's generating that sound structurally, not just atmospherically.
Okay, this is where the design gets, for me, truly sophisticated, the celestial architecture.
The two suns?
We are presented with two suns. This is the very definition of temporal ambiguity, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is the genius move for neutralizing transition anxiety.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in the real world, twilight, that shift from light to dark, it can trigger a low-level vigilance response in a lot of people. It's kind of an evolutionary hangover telling you the world is changing.
Right, danger might be coming.
Exactly. But by introducing a soft, buttery gold sun that's lowering, the end of the day, at the same time as a pale silver sun is rising, the start of the night or the dream, you completely erase the transition period.
So by blending morning and evening, the narrative creates this perpetual, gentle overlap that tells the brain, hey, there's no harsh change coming. You're safe in this ethereal rose and blue light.
Precisely. It short circuits that biological anxiety that's associated with a sudden environmental shift. It's a guaranteed infinite twilight.
I never thought of it that way.
And look at the sky itself, the vertical progression. It's deep turquoise at the horizon, melting into indigo, then this velvet black at the top where the stars are already appearing closer and larger. You're immediately immersed in the vastness of deep space, but that guiding soft dual light means the experience is comforting, not isolating.
So once we're settled in this safe, eternal twilight, the narrative introduces companionship.
The little dog.
The small, fluffy white dog with the silvery sheen to its fur.
And this companion is indispensable for emotional security. It's a creature of pure, non-demanding loyalty.
Right, a human guide would be too complicated.
A human guide introduces social complexity, expectations, communication, which is the absolute antithesis of relaxation. But the dog, with its bright, friendly eyes and that tiny, delighted bark, it just represents unconditional acceptance.
And the connection is immediate. It says when you interact with the dog, you feel a gentle pulse of warmth described as a wordless welcome.
And that sensory input establishes instant trust.
It's a nonverbal assurance.
It is. That pulse of warmth is a direct, positive, tactile reinforcement. It speaks to the limbic system and says, you are cherished and protected. That locks in the foundational emotional security you need before the journey continues.
Which it does into the really stimulating part with the flora and fauna.
Right. And speaking of stimulation, let's talk about the botany. Everything here is so visually rich, but it's all designed for this maximal, comforting complexity.
You have trees with trunks of silver and amethyst, leaves that shift from turquoise to violet.
And fruits that glimmer like lanterns. Star-shaped pears, pearlescent plums.
It's a lot.
This is where the narrative maximizes sensory input, but it's just before the purposeful reduction begins. It's loading the scene with pleasing, high-frequency visual data, but the scent profile, you could argue that's the most complex trigger of all.
I agree. The breeze carries jasmine, ripe peaches, orange blossom, vanilla, all very classic, universally comforting aromas.
Right.
But then it adds this other one.
The one that stands out.
It says something softer and sweeter, like the smell of pages in a beloved old book. Why that specific nostalgic scent?
That specific pairing is just a masterstroke in cognitive anchoring. Jasmine and vanilla, they're effective chemical relaxants, associated with warmth in summer.
Yeah.
But the old book pages smell.
Yeah.
That's often just lignin and vanillin breaking down in the paper. It's an anchor for intellectual quietude and deep nostalgia.
So it's not just making you smell nice things, it's connecting the journey now to past moments of safety and quiet reflection.
Exactly. It layers emotional security like childhood reading, quiet study, that feeling of familiarity directly on top of the physiological relaxation. It makes sure the mind, even as it's wandering in this fantasy, stays tethered to a feeling of deep, established safety.
And this segment is also where we hit maximum spectacle with the fauna.
Maximum spectacles, right?
Pairs of unicorns with manes of starlight, songbird-sized dragons with iridescent wings, and a great winged horse gliding overhead, leaving this trail of sparkling dust. This is really the sensory high point.
It is. It's the maximal sensory load, and it serves a critical function to fully distract the conscious mind.
How so?
By focusing so intensely on these dazzling, high-energy but still non-threatening visuals, your internal narrative, the to-do list, the worrying, it's just silenced.
But you can't fall asleep watching a unicorn parade.
You can't. And the narrative knows this level of spectacle isn't sustainable for sleep, so you need the transition.
The pivot point, which the narrative provides at the crystal obelisk where the path divides. You can choose the bright meadows or the deep emerald forest with the bioluminescent vines.
And the story subtly guides you into the darker, more contained environment.
Why?
That choice is the commitment to descent. Moving into the deep forest signifies the shift from external, high-energy visual exploration toward this internal, hushed sensory intimacy. The narrative now has to strip away all that high-frequency stimuli we just absorbed.
So how does the forest environment actually do that? How does it execute that shift?
Well, the soundscape changes first. Immediately. We trade the delighted bark of the dog and the, potential sounds of dragons for simplicity.
The hushed rustle of leaves?
The quiet hoot of a silver-feathered owl, the delicate chime of water drops. We are replacing complex, high-excitement sounds with simple, low-frequency, natural ones.
And the scent follows that same pattern. We lose the ripe peaches and vanilla, and we shift to cooler air, pine, damp earth, and that really critical hint of lavender.
This is a physiological transition. The previous aromas were complex and comforting, but they were designed for engagement. These new scents, pine and lavender, are grounding. They're associated with clean air and, frankly, with clinical rest. Lavender is a known anxiolytic.
We're moving from cognitive comfort to chemical sedation.
In a way, yeah. And the celestial design finally simplifies. The dual suns are resolved, the golden sun is gone, the silver sun gives way to a single, huge, luminous moon.
It's a perfect resolution. The light source is now singular, massive, and entirely non-threatening.
All the illumination now comes from above, from the moon, or from these contained ambient sources, the bioluminescent vines, which are acting as these controlled living chandeliers. The visual field is darker, calmer, and contained by the protective canopy of the trees.
And the path itself, it transforms too for this final phase. Tiny crystals in the soil awaken to trace the path like a trail of fallen stars. It feels like the cosmos itself is guiding your step.
The path maintains its reassuring structure. It eliminates your last remaining worry, which would be getting lost in the dark. And psychologically, the ancient trees, leaning in protectively, they just reinforce this idea of a safe, enclosed space. Everything is urging you inward, toward the destination.
And that destination is the hidden clearing, which is anchored by a waterfall, pouring from a crescent-shaped cliff, glowing pale blue and lilac.
And that waterfall becomes the final, persistent sonic anchor. That rushing sound is natural white noise. It masks any potential jarring sounds from your real environment and acts as this consistent, non-patterned lullaby.
And the mist, described as hanging like tiny stars, keeps the visual beauty, but it's soft and diffuse.
Exactly.
Even the seating around the pool is designed for warmth. It says the flat stones are warmed from within, as if the earth itself is offering you comfort. The environment is actively supporting you.
It is. The narrative has systematically stripped away every external source of anxiety and replaced it with guaranteed physical and emotional security. The final sky above, with its slow gliding colored planets, is now purely aesthetic. It's distant and slow-moving, no longer a distraction, but just a comforting sense of scale.
And then we get to the final resting place. The bed is just waiting. Pillows stuffed with clouds, soft blankets in twilight blue, twined with glowing vines. The integration is complete. The fantasy realm has literally grown the place where you will sleep.
And this leads to the absolute most critical cognitive mechanism for sleep induction: entrainment.
Entrainment.
The little white dog curls up at your feet, a small, warm presence, and the narrative specifically emphasizes its slow and steady breathing.
So entrainment means that the dog's predictable rhythm helps regulate your own internal state. Is that it?
Precisely. Entrainment is the synchronization of biological rhythms to an external stimulus. By focusing your attention on the predictable, slow, steady rhythm of the dog's breath, your own heart rate and breath rate begin to unconsciously mimic that stable, restful cadence.
It's a powerful, non-verbal physiological guide.
The guide into deep sleep. And then, the narrative allows the entire sensory symphony to just fade. The waterfall becomes a gentle lullaby, and those dazzling images of the unicorns and dragons, they flicker, and then they softly fade behind your closed eyes.
That final fade really is the proof of success.
It is. The narrative executed a perfect sequence. You start with physical grounding, you transition through this high spectacle, high comfort stimuli, the dual suns, the complex smells, and then you systematically simplify. You replace all the complex sights and high-frequency sounds with singular, low-frequency grounding inputs.
The single moon, the pine and lavender, the consistent white noise, the slow breathing.
It's a masterclass in controlled cognitive descent. The entire structure is designed to neutralize conflict. Morning and evening meet, light and dark coexist safely.
It really does show that the initial fantasy is a sophisticated distraction, a kind of cognitive override. But that final stage requires pure, fundamental comfort.
Delivered through predictable sensory input.
And that brings us back to the core insight for you, the learner. The entire journey starts with these fantastic visuals: unicorns, glowing fruit, dual suns. But the absolute final sensory triggers, the ones that stick with you as you drift off, are the quietest.
The breathing of the dog and the rush of the waterfall.
So what does the dominance of these quiet, natural sounds over the dazzling visual spectacle in those final moments tell you about the sensory hierarchy required for the deepest, most restorative sleep? It suggests that true rest requires the mind to move past the spectacle and commit entirely to gentle, reliable, grounding repetition.